Well, greetings, everybody. This is the first official episode for this podcast, Beautifully Bad. I am so honored that you are here, and if you are somebody who really wants to be a writer and just doesn't really know where to start, I think this episode might be for you. And even if you have started on, you've already started writing and you just need some direction, I think I may or may not have you there. I might have your back, but we'll see. So, when you're writing a book, you may have a lot of dreams and ambitions for what your project is going to be, and you may even be wanting it to be turned into a movie adaptation later. And that is very good to have ambition, but the problem with having too much ambition is you're never going to be good enough for yourself. So it's always good to set certain levels of accomplishments for yourself, and no accomplishment is bigger than one. It's just getting something done that matters, because everything you do, if you didn't do the first step, you couldn't get to the last step. So putting care and work into even the smallest details is what's going to give you success. And here, I'm not going to promise you success. I'm going to promise you, hopefully, some sort form of advice that's going to help you on this journey. The first stage of realizing you want to write a book is, I really feel the artistic and creative urge to write a book. I've seen all these great stories, and I just, randomly, I just thought of this really good story idea, or maybe you didn't think of a good story idea and you just felt the inspiration to write. So I think a good place to start is just thinking about what's going on in your life. What are the significant things that have happened in your life? And if is there a certain theme in your life that could contribute to you writing a certain theme better? I'm just taking from personal experience, and you can use this method to find out what you want to write about too. But I am an only child, and I find it very hard to be social. Like, that's just not my personality of how I've grown up with no siblings and that kind of thing. And you could like write a story, or I could write a story about developing my social skills and working through my journey of trying to be a more social person. Like, I promise you that there's a lot more interesting things you could do with that. That's just what I can think of on the top of my head. And like battling with all the drama that comes with being an only child, and maybe at home there's a reason why you're an only child, and I don't know, there's like some drama there. But it's always important to um, have a purpose for why you're writing, because if you don't have a purpose, it's like, I'm writing this just for success and not for a message to change anybody's life, or like inspire them. Because at the end of the day, you want to have your writing that it inspires other people to want to write. And I feel like even if you don't sell that many copies, if it inspires more people to want to write, you're pretty much a success in that area. Once you have decided on what your theme is, say your theme is fantasy, and I preferably like writing fantasy, and everybody in my past has told me, write what you know. And the problem with saying that, actually, there's no problem with saying that. It's just that when you hear that phrase, you're going to think, like, well, I've never met a unicorn before. I've never been to a different planet. I've never used magic powers. And that's just something that you don't know. And none of us know. But there's nothing wrong with writing those things. It's just that you need to be writing those things in a way that conveys a message so it doesn't seem pointless. Like, if, okay, we're going with the only child thing, this is coming off of my own book that I'm writing. The main protagonist is a girl that is royalty of this crystal planet, and on that planet they have many amazing animals and all of these beautiful sights and sword fighting, and um, you can have an imagination. That's what God gave you your imagination for, if you believe in God. You just have an imagination, and using that imagination, you can use all of these creative elements to your advantage to get across a certain message that you want people to understand. And the it could be friendship. Well, you can go on adventures like in Lord of the Rings. Friendship between the what's that called? Like the Fellowship of the Ring. Friendship and all that things, and Frodo and Sam, and all of those aspects. That could be your thing. Like at the end of the day, you went through all these adventures, learning something about each other, getting closer to each other, and at the end of the day, you're still friends and you have each other. So that sounds pretty cliche. But that's the best way I know how to explain it. Um, yeah. So we're moving on to something else. And once you have your theme down, you need to outline what you want to have happen in your chapter. Just your first chapter. Um, typically typically you're going to want to like write out what happens in each scene, each key point, because once you have that written down what you're going to write, you're not just going to be staring at a blank page and being like, what happens next? Like if you have an outline of what you're going to have in that chapter, you can just put in all the filler things, and like it'll just come to you because you can build on top of what you've already written down, and it'll just be better for your imagination to actively work because you already know what's going to happen, but you can add on to it. So yeah. And once you've written that, I don't really have any tips for writing style because everybody has a different writing style, but POVs are very important to choose if you're wanting multiple perspectives. You want the emotions of all of your main characters to be spoken of and noticed in your writing. Then you're going to want to do third person omniscient. And if you want it to be third person, but you're mainly only focusing on the main character, you're going to want to do third person limited. And if you're wanting to have a more personal, in depth view of how the character is feeling, because sometimes their actions may not accurately convey in your description how they're feeling, so the reader might think another thing. So if you don't want that to be misconstrued, unless you like confusing the reader and letting them figure out things on their own, you can do first person, and I think that's the only title for it, just first person, them describing things, and also in like telling them like the reader how they're feeling about something in like detail from their point of view instead of like a zoomed out point of view talking about them like walking, and they're like describing things they're seeing as they're walking. And what was I gonna say? I forget what I was gonna say. Also, you're gonna wanna avoid using filler words because filler words are like, for example, Stacy felt sick. And I don't understand how you could feel sick and not be sick. Like, so you would just say, Stacy was sick. Like, um, putting filler words in there just like creates distance. Like, it reminds the reader that they're not actually there. So they're like, oh, she felt like it. Okay, okay. She wasn't sick. She just felt like it. Like, you don't want to create distance between the reader because that's what creates the close intimacy that makes them feel like they are there in that scenario there. So, I'm not the best with filler words myself. If you want to avoid them, I might do like learn on how to avoid them better. I might do a video on that. But just really research on how to avoid filler words because the best books I've had or read, they don't have a lot of filler words in them, and it's okay if you're a beginner. Everybody's going to start out somewhere. Do not feel bad if you don't know how to avoid using filler words because they're not always bad to use. Also, side note for your side characters other than your antagonist. Also, hold up. Your antagonist should be okay. So I'm sorry. So I heard this quote, this really good quote, like a couple weeks ago. That is, you either have to have a very unlikable protagonist, which is like your hero or your savior or the main character, or you have to have a very, very likable villain, antagonist, or person opposing the antagonist or the protagonist. So I feel like, because the reason why I think that's true is because, in most fandoms, the villain is the most liked, and then the hero is hated on a lot. Honestly, don't know why, but I do know at the same time because like they make the heroes suck, but they also are very necessary. But they make the antagonists so cool and so strongly personalitied. I don't know if that's a word, but they are just so cool. They have their coolest persona ever, and they just do a lot of horrible things that contradicts what the protagonist is trying to do. So that's just a little side note on that. I think this is going to be the wrapping up of this episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed it because I love talking about writing. It's like what flows through my veins and gives me life. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I didn't know if I was going to do this on the podcast, but I'm gonna compliment you and say it doesn't matter how you look, doesn't matter how you'll ever look, you were made so perfectly, and I can just imagine that you are so gorgeous, and you're especially gorgeous for listening the whole way through because you just got smarter. So, bye.